Hi guys, following their election defeat, the Conservatives could have looked back at the last 14 years and thought to themselves, what have we done? The damage we did to public services, the sowing of division in society, be it against people on benefits or later in order to pander to Farage, the scapegoating of asylum seekers and immigrants. They could have looked at how they ignored problems facing the NHS and the cost of living crisis as two of the main issues on the minds of voters as they cast their ballots against the Tories. They could have taken all these things on board and say, let's ignore Farage and immigration and focus on the real priorities of the British people. Or they could go even more crazy. Labour's Pat McFadden had some interesting advice for the Conservative leadership.
Kemi Badenoch has said today that not all cultures are equally valid when it comes to deciding who should be allowed into the UK. I wonder what your thoughts are on that. Do you think we should be looking at immigration in terms of culture?
Well, I don't take part in culture wars. I'll leave that to the Tory party. My reflection on the Tory leadership contest is that when we lost in 2019, people like me were writing that the Labour Party had to change from top to bottom, worldview, policy, organisation, a total root and branch change. The remarkable thing about the Tory leadership election is that there's no candidate arguing for real change. They all seem to be doubling down on the messages that were rejected by the electorate. And after such a big defeat, I think a leadership election, if it can do one thing, should be an opportunity to have a genuine debate about change and direction. And it seems to be completely absent from the contest. And that's remarkable after such a heavy defeat.
He's completely correct. The Conservatives at the moment are completely tone deaf. Why? Look at the polling. When it came to, and this is something that Sir John Curtis has pointed out, when it comes to why the Conservatives lost, there were two main driving issues. One was Partygate, so that was the corruption and the shenanigans of Boris Johnson, which all of these people seem to think was a good idea to have, campaigning for the Conservative Party. None of them were saying, no, keep Boris Johnson away. They were like, yeah, let's have Boris Johnson on board campaigning for us, even though Boris Johnson is extremely toxic. And the second, of course, was Liz Truss's mini budget. Now, none of these people came out and said that Liz Truss should have been kicked out of the party. Some of them were defending her at the beginning, and then obviously they were distancing themselves from her. But when people came out to vote, the priority was the cost of living crisis and the NHS. Immigration was way down the list. But the bigger problem for the Conservatives is this belief that they have that they can out Nigel Farage. You can't beat Farage at his own game. Farage has perfected his charlatanism over the last number of years. He knows that he can sit on the sidelines and say, well, I would do X, Y, and Z when it comes to immigration. And for some reason, the Conservatives think they can defeat him. They can be even further to the right on immigration than Nigel Farage. It's insane, because you have been in power for 14 years. Now, I don't think immigration is a problem, but these people keep saying that immigration is a problem. But they represent a failed government when it comes to immigration. See, Farage has a clean slate. He can sit on the sidelines and say, well, I would just send people back. When a Tory says, well, we need to send people back, the obvious question from the far right is, well, why didn't you? Why didn't you send people back when you were in power? And then they have to come up with excuses. Well, I wasn't the minister, or I wasn't in charge, or I wasn't the prime minister, or I was fighting against the civil service. So they have to come up with excuses as to why they didn't achieve what they said that what they're saying now is what they would achieve. So they're in a fix. They can't get out of it. So instead of actually moving back to the centre and selling the public policies that may actually win people over, say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to deal with the cost of living crisis. We're going to start building more houses. People won't believe you, but at least you're fighting on something on ground that is reasonable, as opposed to this attempt to outflank Nigel Farage. It's impossible. It's politically stupid. Because, as I keep saying, he doesn't have to deliver anything. Nigel Farage will never really be in government, unless something happens, but he's unlikely to be in government, so he'll never be challenged, truly challenged, and he knows that. You have been in government. You've been in government for 14 years. Now, perhaps this line will work 10 years down the road where people have forgotten that you were in government, but all of these people, all of these candidates, are deeply connected with the previous government. So they can't run away from that. It's insane. And instead of moving to the centre where they could actually win back support, win back Tories who were, who wanted to give the Conservatives a bloody nose at the last election, who are willing to come back, you're turning them off. The average person, even the average Conservative, is not a Nigel Farage supporter. They're not obsessed with immigration. They're interested in real issues. But the more you double down on this, all of these candidates, on immigration alone, the more they're going to turn off moderate Conservative voters. But they don't seem to either understand that or care. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.